I hunt. I want to say that first because it is the context for everything that follows. I am not a casual outdoors person. I am someone who spends significant portions of the year in the woods, scouting, setting cameras, learning the land. I know what belongs in a forest and what is not. I set trail cameras every fall before deer season, usually 4 or 5 of them, positioned at the edges of clearings and along game trails where I had seen movement in previous years. In September, I went to check the cameras after they had been up for 3 weeks. The first 2 showed nothing remarkable. Deer, a coyote, a raccoon in the middle of the night doing raccoon things. The ordinary wildlife record of a healthy forest. The third camera, positioned at the edge of a clearing about 1.5 miles from the nearest trail, showed me something I spent a long time looking at. The camera had triggered 47 times in 3 weeks. About half of those triggers were animals. The other half were a person. A person I did not recognize, moving through the clearing at various times, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 11 at night. Never during daylight. Always in the dark hours. Always moving in the same direction. Northeast. Through my clearing and into the trees on the other side. Like someone on a route. A regular, repeated route. Through land that was mine to hunt and no one else's to be on. I scrolled through the images. Same person, different nights, a dark jacket, moving with the purpose of someone who knew exactly where they were going. In the dark. Alone. Through dense national forest. I called the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission and the county sheriff's office simultaneously and sent the images. The game and fish officer came out the following day and reviewed the footage on the device itself, including several images that captured the figure more clearly than the ones I had seen. He said the individual was using that corridor regularly, and that northeast from there sat an old logging road about 2 miles out that had not been operational in years. Someone who knew those woods well would know that road and know it connected to a county road on the other side. I asked who would be using it at 3 in the morning. He looked at me. He said that was the question, and that they were going to set up on the logging road to find out. What they found during the following 2 weeks of monitoring is part of an ongoing investigation I cannot detail here. What I can tell you is what the officer said when he called with an update. He said my camera was the first documentation of that corridor being used, and that without it they had nothing. With it they had 47 images with dates, times, and direction of travel. He said my instinct to call immediately rather than investigate on my own had been correct. Whatever was on that logging road, he said, I did not want to walk into it alone at 1.5 miles in. If your trail camera shows you something that is not wildlife, call before you go back. Do not go back alone. Whatever is moving through your land in the dark, let the people whose job it is handle it. I was part of a 3-person survey crew. Land surveying in Oregon's timber country takes you into places most people never see. Old growth, second growth, logged over sections that have been regenerating for decades. Land that belongs to timber companies or to the state with no recreational access. You're genuinely in the middle of nowhere. Our crew that day was me, my colleague Patrick, and our crew chief Diana. We were running a boundary survey on a timber parcel that needed its corners re-established for a timber sale. Routine work we had done dozens of times. We were about 3 miles in, 2 miles from our truck, when Diana stopped. She held up her hand. Crew speak for stop, be quiet, listen. She was looking at the ground. I came up beside her. Boot prints, recent ones. The forest floor was damp, and the prints were sharp-edged, not yet weathered or blurred. Leading into the parcel we were surveying, which had no authorized access except ours. Diana said quietly that they were not ours. I looked at the tread pattern. Not survey boots. Our boots were specific and practical, and I knew the pattern of mine and Patrick's. A completely different tread entirely. Diana looked at the direction the prints were heading. Deeper into the parcel. She said we were going to finish the corner we were working on, and then we were going to walk out. Not run. Walk out, efficiently and with purpose. Patrick asked about the remaining corners. She said tomorrow with company. Diana had been surveying timber land in Oregon for 22 years. She had found things in those woods and had stories she told sometimes carefully at the end of long field days. She was not someone who frightened easily. She was frightened enough to leave 2 corners undone and walk 2 miles back to the truck. We walked out. At the truck, Diana called the timber company's land manager and the Oregon State Police. State Police sent a patrol to the access road. They found at the end of it, past the gate that was supposed to be locked, a vehicle that had been there for some time. Concealed, pulled off the road and into the trees far enough to be invisible from the gate. What was found in connection with that vehicle and in the interior of the parcel during the investigation that followed, I know only what Diana told me when she finally talked about it. She said it was the kind of thing that needs that kind of privacy, that far in and that well concealed. She said I did not want to know the specifics. What I did want to know, she said, was that we had been right to leave. I have worked survey jobs since that day, and I work them differently. When we find something in the field that does not belong, we log it, mark the location, and walk out. We do not investigate. We do not go toward it. We log it and leave and make a call. Diana's 22 years said walk out. I will always walk out. My dog came back without me. Let me tell you why that matters. My dog, a 7-year-old shepherd mix named Boone, had been with me on every hike, every walk, and every outdoor excursion for his entire life. Boone did not leave my side. It was not in his nature. He ranged ahead of me on trails and doubled back to check in. He did not run off, and he did not bolt. He was, in 7 years, the most reliable trail companion I had ever had. On a Saturday morning in October, I took Boone on a walk I had done many times, a loop through the national forest that bordered my property. About 4 miles, an hour and a half. About 2 miles in, Boone stopped. He had been ahead of me on the trail. He stopped, turned, and looked back toward me. His hackles were up. His tail was low. He was not growling. Boone was not a dog who growled often. But everything about his body was wrong. I stopped. I asked what it was. He looked past me. I turned around. The trail behind us was empty, dense forest on both sides, nothing visible. I told him to come on. Boone did not move forward. He did not come to my side. He turned and walked back the way we had come, away from wherever we had been heading. I have thought about that moment many times since. I followed him. My dog was going back, and I was going to follow my dog. We were a mile from home, moving back toward the property when I heard it. Footsteps in the trees to my left, moving parallel to the trail and matching our pace. I did not stop, did not call out, just kept walking at the pace I was walking. The footsteps continued for approximately 400 feet. Then they stopped. Boone reached the edge of our property fence, went through the gate, and sat in the yard and looked at me. I went through the gate and locked it. I called my neighbor 2 properties over who owned a significant portion of the adjacent land. I described what had happened, the hackles, the trail, the footsteps. He said he had trail cameras on that section for 2 years, and that I was not the first person to call him about something in that corridor. He pulled the footage from that morning and called me back 2 hours later. His camera, positioned at a junction point on the forest trail, had captured a figure moving through the forest off-trail in the direction Boone and I had been at approximately the time we were there. The figure was not identifiable, but it was there. We reported to the county sheriff and to the National Forest Ranger Station. Both took the documentation seriously. What I want to tell you is this. Boone knew before I did. His hackles came up before I heard the footsteps. He turned back before I understood there was a reason to turn. 7 years of being in the woods with a dog had given me enough sense to follow him when he made a decision. If you have a dog that knows the woods, listen to the dog. Before you understand why. The dog already knows. I want to tell you about a sound that stopped. Not started. Stopped. Because the stopping is the thing. I was turkey hunting in April in a state forest in Alabama that I had hunted for 3 years. A section of hardwood bottom full of gobblers in spring, land I had permission to access through an adjacent property. I was in position before dawn, set up at the base of a large white oak facing a clearing the birds regularly crossed. Turkey hunting at dawn is a specific kind of patience. You sit still, you listen, you wait for the woods to wake up. The woods woke up around 6. Birds, woodpeckers, the distant hammering of a pileated in the timber behind me, a crow crossing overhead, the layered sound of a southern hardwood forest in spring, and turkeys, a gobbler hammering from the roost to my left, another answering from further east. The sounds that made me get up at 4 in the morning. I sat with my call and worked the birds. For about 40 minutes, everything was as it should be. Then the birds stopped. Not gradually, all at once. The 2 gobblers had been going back and forth steadily for 40 minutes, and they stopped simultaneously. I had hunted long enough to know that turkeys stop gobbling for two reasons. A hen has come to them, and they no longer need to call. Or something has spooked them. I waited. Nothing. The entire forest had gone to a low and watchful quiet. Not silent, the background sounds were still there, but the active sounds, the bird chatter, the woodpecker, the turkeys were gone. I sat still. 3 minutes. 5. A stick broke. Behind me and to the right. One break, and then nothing. I did not turn around immediately. I sat still and processed what I had. Forest went quiet. One stick broke behind me. In turkey hunting you sometimes have deer come in from behind, raccoons, occasionally other hunters. The stick break had been weight-bearing. Something substantial. I turned slowly. The forest behind me was morning shadow and filtered light, dense understory, visibility maybe 30 feet. I saw nothing. I sat for another full minute. Then I saw movement, 40 feet back at the edge of my visibility. A shape, partially obscured by brush. Not moving. Still. The shape of a person. Standing still. Facing me. I stood up and said loudly, the way hunters announce themselves in the woods, "Hunter up, standing up." The standard safety call every hunter knows. The shape did not respond, did not move, did not call back. I picked up my seat cushion and my call and began walking out. Not toward the shape, but along the tree line to my left toward the access trail that led back to the property boundary. I walked. The shape did not follow, or if it did it stayed beyond the range of sounds I was monitoring. I reached my truck. I called the property owner, whose land I was accessing, and the state forest ranger station. A ranger went in that morning and found, at approximately the location I had described, evidence of a long-term ground blind. Not a hunting blind. The materials were wrong for hunting, and the position was wrong for hunting since it had no sight line to any game trail or clearing. It faced the section of the forest where I had been set up. The ranger said they had been having issues in that section, not with hunters but with individuals using the state forest for purposes that were not recreational, and that the blind had been there for a while. He said it in the careful language of a man who was not going to tell me specifically what those purposes were. He did not need to. The turkeys had known something was wrong for 40 minutes before I did. The silence was the warning. I just had not acted on it fast enough. Act on the silence. When the woods go quiet, something has already made a decision.